What if I told you that hidden deep within the earliest memory of Israel is a mysterious book, one so old, so ancient, that it may have been written while the Israelites themselves were still wandering through the wilderness? A book quoted briefly in the Bible, yet lost to history. A book that may have contained songs of battle, records of miracles, and stories of God's power that no one alive today has ever read. Welcome to Lost Books Archive, where we explore the forgotten pages of sacred history with respect, reverence, and a desire only to understand, not to challenge or replace the faith that millions hold dear. Today we turn our attention to a text that has puzzled scholars, theologians, and historians for centuries. The Book of the Wars of the Lord. The Bible mentions this mysterious book only once, in a short, quiet verse tucked inside the book of Numbers. In Numbers 21:14 we read, "Therefore it is said in the book of the wars of the Lord," and then a cryptic fragment follows, "Waheb in Sufa, the ravines of the Arnon." And just like that, the book vanishes from the pages of Scripture. No explanation, no surviving chapters, no preserved scrolls. Only a whisper, a gentle reminder that before the Bible was complete, there were other writings, other songs, other records carried by the people of God. What was this book? What stories did it contain? Why was it quoted in Scripture but not included within the canon? These questions open a door into one of the most fascinating mysteries of the ancient world. To understand the Book of the Wars of the Lord, we must step back into the world of the early Israelites. This was a time before kings, before temples, before prophets wrote their visions on parchment. Israel was a wandering nation, shaped by battles, deliverance, miracles, and moments when the presence of God moved among them like fire and cloud. In those early days, it was common for ancient peoples to preserve their victories in songs and poems, records of triumph, bravery, and divine intervention. Israel was no different. The Song of Moses, the Song of Deborah, the Song of Miriam. The Bible itself preserves fragments of ancient poetry that celebrate God's mighty acts. But the Book of the Wars of the Lord appears to have been a much larger collection, a scroll containing the earliest military history of God's people. Some scholars believe it may have been a compilation of battlefield songs, written by soldiers who witnessed miracles firsthand, songs sung around fires, passed through generations, and eventually written down by scribes. Others believe it may have contained detailed accounts of the battles Israel fought as they made their way from the wilderness to the Promised Land. But perhaps most mysterious of all is the possibility that the book recorded supernatural events and lost miracles, moments that did not survive into the pages of the Bible, but which were preserved in the memories of those who lived them. Imagine a scroll filled with the earliest stories of God's power, waters parting, enemies fleeing, mountains trembling. Imagine first-hand accounts of events the Bible only hints at in fragments. The Book of the Wars of the Lord may have been exactly that, a catalog of divine intervention during Israel's journey. One ancient Jewish tradition suggests that the book contained records of battles fought not only against earthly armies, but against forces that terrified ancient people, giants, warriors of unusual strength, and tribes whose origins are lost to history. This idea echoes faintly in other ancient writings, like the Book of Jasher, and in fragments found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, where legendary enemies appear to be far greater than ordinary men. While we cannot confirm these stories historically, they reflect something important. The ancient Israelites believed they were not merely fighting nations. They were fighting darkness, chaos, and forces beyond human strength. Another tradition suggests that the Book of the Wars of the Lord contained the earliest versions of Israel's miraculous victories, stories that later evolved into the narratives found in Joshua and Judges. Could the fall of Jericho have had an earlier poetic form? Could the battles against the Amorites, Midianites, or Moabites once have been preserved in songs far older than the books we have today? If so, then Jasher, the Wars of the Lord, and other lost works may be echoes of a much older tradition, a tradition in which history was recorded not in chapters, but in songs. One of the greatest mysteries in the brief quotation from Numbers is the phrase, Waheb in Sufa. No one knows precisely what it means. Some believe it refers to a lost location where a great victory occurred. Others think it may be the name of a poem or chant now entirely forgotten. But one thing is certain, the fragment seems to be referencing something the ancient audience already knew. It is as if the biblical writer is quoting a famous line, much the way we might quote a well-known song today. This suggests that the book of the wars of the Lord was not obscure, it was well known to the people of the time. Another fragment refers to the ravines of the Arnon, a region where Israel battled the Amorites. The Bible records the event briefly, but the book of the wars of the Lord may have contained a much fuller account, perhaps describing heroic actions, narrow escapes, or extraordinary acts of divine deliverance. The idea of a lost story hidden behind a single verse is both humbling and thrilling. It reminds us that the Bible preserves the heart of God's story, but that many details from ancient life remain undiscovered. Why then was this book not included in Scripture? The answer may be surprisingly simple. The book of the wars of the Lord appears to have been a historical document, not a prophetic one. It was a collection of poems and records, not divine revelation. The Bible often quotes external sources, historical records, genealogies, songs, but it does not include them unless they serve a theological purpose. Just as the book of Jasher was referenced but not canonized, the book of the wars of the Lord may have been respected but never considered scripture. Over time, as Israel settled, rebuilt, and eventually faced exile, many early scrolls were lost. Libraries were destroyed, temples burned, and archives erased. Whatever the book of the wars of the Lord contained, its battles, its poems, its legends, most likely vanished during the chaos of history. Only the faintest echoes remain. And yet, as we study the possibilities, we begin to see something beautiful. The existence of this lost book does not weaken faith. Instead, it deepens our appreciation for the world in which the Bible was written. It shows us that God's people preserved their stories, their victories, and their memories in ways that were meaningful to them. It shows us that Scripture emerged from a rich tapestry of culture, history, and tradition. And it reminds us that many voices contributed to the understanding of God's work: prophets, poets, storytellers, and warriors. The book of the wars of the Lord may be lost, but the mystery invites us to reflect on the journey of God's people in a new way. It encourages us to imagine what those early days were like, how it felt to stand before enemies stronger than yourself, how it felt to witness miracles firsthand, how it felt to see God's hand move in the midst of battle. The ancient Israelites did not see their victories as their own. They believed deeply that God fought for them. And perhaps that is the ultimate message of the book of the wars of the Lord, a testimony of God's faithfulness in moments of fear, danger, and hope. As we close this episode, let us remember that our purpose is not to fill in gaps with certainty, but to honor the ancient memory of a people whose faith shaped the world. By exploring lost texts with respect and care, we come to appreciate the Bible even more, not only for what it contains, but for the world it came from. If this journey has sparked something in you, if you feel that pull toward understanding the forgotten parts of sacred history, then stay with us. Subscribe to Lost Books Archive, turn on notifications, and join us as we continue to explore the hidden, the mysterious, and the ancient. Because here at Lost Books Archive, the forgotten becomes known, the hidden becomes revealed, and the voices of the ancient world speak once again.